at Mercy's Corner, the voice of the community. Here we are.
We're back in the office like we never left with Monique Pope, right?
Monique Pardo Pope, yes.
We're here in her space. We came here to get to know her a little bit more because a lot of people have been DMing me that they don't know too much about you.
Sure, absolutely.
So I'm so grateful that you open your doors to us. I know you're very personal because I've seen you in social media. So I'm very grateful that you opened the doors, and hopefully we can get to know you a little bit more. Well, I learned something new today, that you're from the Hialeah.
I'm from Hialeah. I am a Hialeah girl through and through, absolutely.
And your background, I didn't know either, is Cuban.
Yes. So, and I'll give you it, but before we start, I just want to say thank you so much, Mercy, for having me on your show.
Welcome.
I appreciate you coming into my practice and my firm, and so you can see what I do on a day-to-day basis.
Yes.
Obviously, you know I'm running for the Commission 1 group in Miami Beach. I'm so thankful that I made the runoff. We have a lot of work to do before December 9th, but we are working very hard to, reach our goals. And to your point, yes, I born and raised in Hialeah.
Wow, I didn't expect that from it.
Yeah. So my mother came from Cuba when she was a little girl on Operation Pedro Pan, which is through the Catholic Church.
Yes.
So
that's where Willie Chirino también vino.
Yes. And so the Catholic Church set up these flights to the United States, and my mother and her brothers came at a very, very young age. Fast forward, 18, 19 years old, my mother met my biological father. They were married in Miami. They had me, and I was actually born and raised Hialeah Hospital, lived in La Grande.
Oh my God.
And I went to Dade Christian for many years before I went to Jose Marti for middle school. Mm-hmm. And I just came to find out that we went to school at the same time.
Yep.
There you go, Jose Marti nights.
Yep, that is in our blood. But yes. I did graduate in Braddock. I did because my parents were very low income, so every time the rent will increase, we had to move. My parents came in Mariel. So, when you came from Mariel, you had to go to Hialeah.
Absolutely.
So I was born and raised in Hialeah, and then we did move a lot in that area, and then we moved to Kendall when I was like 16, and I've been a Kendall girl since then. My daughters are raised in Kendall, so
Kendall's wonderful. My parents live in Kendall, and another fun fact, my stepfather, who my mother met at Palmetto Hospital, because my mom's a microbiologist. She worked for many, many years at Palmetto, and that's where she worked and raised me as a single mom, working 3 jobs, picking herself up by her bootstraps. But she met my stepdad, who had came over on a raft from Cuba, was lost at sea for 4 days.
Oh, wow.
Directed nada más by the La Virgen de la Caridad, and had resigned himself that he was not going to make it to the United States. Ended up landing in Key West during Fantasy Week.
Oh my God. So
you can imagine. You can imagine the first thing he saw when he arrived to the United States. Naked people with paint. He goes, no, mándame para atrás, Cuba. And so they got married when I was 13 years old, and that's when we actually moved. My parents always had a small place here in Miami Beach, in North Beach, by 72nd. So I spent all of my weekends actually here in Miami Beach. But we actually lived temporarily too at the Casa Blanca on Collins.
Oh yeah.
But our residence, our permanent residence, was in Hialeah until we moved to Kendall, and that's where I transferred from Barbara Goldman, where I started high school, later to Miami Sunset, where I graduated in 1999.
Oh wow! I was in Braddock and you were in Sunset.
Yeah. So we were rivals after the fact.
And then, how did you get into the political world?
How did my journey begin? So, long story short, I went through an incredibly difficult childhood. I had some serious tragedies that I had to overcome, and that sort of set this fire, this spark in me that I wanted to prove myself to the world. And I wanted to say, you know what, regardless of any adversity that comes my way, I am going to succeed in life, and I'm not going to become a statistic. And so I pushed myself. My mother especially pushed me. She's my rock, my everything. Got a full ride to the University of Florida, where I graduated at the top of my class with a degree in history, and then I later got a scholarship to UCLA for law school.
Oh wow.
And so I wanted to fight the good fight and, help people that couldn't help themselves. And so I went to law school, moved to California, which was on the other side of the world, and really opposed to everything that I had been accustomed to and learned. It was an entirely different experience and world for me. After I graduated from law school, I had an opportunity to move to Manhattan, where I haphazardly ended up working on Wall Street.
Oh, wow.
So my plan was to take the New York bar.
This is the importance of doing
yes,
podcasts.
Yes.
We did not know this.
None of this, right? So I got an opportunity to work at a hedge fund, and I threw myself into the fire. And I said, well, this is very exciting and it's something new, and I'm always up to the challenge of learning something that I don't
Wall
know
Street,
already.
wow.
And so I started working on the buy side at a hedge fund, SAB Capital, under Scott Baumer at the time, who was the portfolio manager. And I fast forward a couple of years, I had an opportunity to interview for Cantor Fitzgerald, where I went to the sell side, and I started working for Cantor Fitzgerald under Howard Lutnick, who's now our Secretary of Commerce. And
Wow.
I did institutional equities trading, so I did both domestic as well as international. And I worked on a trading desk, and I did that for several years, both in Dallas and in Manhattan. And I loved it up to the point where I started missing my family. I was missing my mom as an only child. She kept pulling me, wanting me to come home and say, come home to Miami, we miss you, we need you. And so 2016, I decided, you know what, we've had a good run with Manhattan, but it's time to break up with New York and come home. And so that's what I did. Came home and began working in creditor litigation at Andreo Palma Levine and Solis, where I did that for a few years. And on to supplement my work as an attorney, I have always been very heavily involved in service, community service, philanthropy. I was part of the Junior League of Greenwich and served on their boards while I was away. And so I wanted to get involved here in Miami. And so I signed up to be a pro bono guardian ad litem in the children's court through Dade Legal Aid.
Oh, wow.
And so they have a program called the Put Something Back program. And so I started being assigned guardian ad litem cases. And I'll never forget, one of the judges approached me and said, you have an incredible temperament for this type of work. You should consider making this, sort of like what your focus is. And so pandemic had my second baby, and my husband and I decided, you know what? You love family law. You love what you do. You love your guardian work. Why don't you make a practice out of it? And so that's where we are. And now fast forward, I have my own practice. I do family law. Guardian ad litem is a large chunk of my practice. I do some civil litigation, some debt collection as well. But fight the good fight every day.
And then when did you realize I want to be the commissioner of
Miami Beach?
From all the places, Miami Beach.
Yeah. I think I knew. So being that we own our home here in Miami Beach, our kids go to St. Pat's down the street. My practice is here in Miami Beach. I'm a small business owner. We started to feel as though our quality of life, issues involving our quality of life, weren't really being addressed in a way that we thought was that they should be, given what we pay to live in Miami Beach, taxes, etc. And so every once in a while you get an opportunity for an open seat. One became available because KRG was challenging Mayor Minor in the mayoral race. It was an opportunity for a first-time candidate to throw their name in the hat. And so I met with Mayor Minor, and I had spoken to him about some issues that I had been seeing at Nautilus, which is the middle school right behind my home, and things that we had been seeing that we weren't really happy with. Knowing that, fast forward, our kids are going to be going to this middle school.
Right.
Why is it that there are 863 middle schoolers and only one guidance counselor? Are mental health issues being addressed? There's fighting going on at the Starbucks. There's things we're hearing from friends that there's teenage pregnancy and drugs and cutting and issues that were very unsettling for me as a mom of a 5 and a 3-year-old. And so I said, you know what? I know that I've always loved to serve, and service has always been a huge part of my existence and who I am, what defines me. And so I spoke to my husband. I said, you know what? How crazy would it be if I threw my name in the hat? And really, we need a strong mama bear voice up on that dais. One that has kids in the system, one that's living here, one that's a small business owner, one that can really leverage the work that I do on a daily basis, at my professional career as an attorney and an advocate, to bring that to the dais. I think that that's something that's missing, something that I know I will fight very, very tooth and nail hard for the residents of Miami Beach. So I threw my name in the hat, and it's worked out well thus far.
Yeah, you're not.
So far,
no.
we're in the runoff. God, thank you, God, and I'm very grateful to Him and my family and my supporters who have kind of stuck by me.
And you're Republican. I think you're the only Republican in Miami Beach.
Yes.
And you're Catholic.
I am Catholic.
And you're Cuban.
And I'm Cuban. I checked those boxes.
Yes.
So I, born as, Cuban. So yes, my kids, they're at St. Patrick's, and we absolutely love being part of the St. Patrick community. We're Catholic. My kids were baptized Catholic, and so we love the community that we live in. I am Cuban from Hialeah as well, so we check those boxes. I am Republican. As you know, I am the only registered Republican in this race. Fun fact, I think it's been almost close to 30 years since a registered Republican has won a seat
I'm excited.
on the Miami Beach Commission. And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I do not believe a registered woman Republican
You're correct.
has ever won Miami Beach Commission.
Yes, I did my research.
So this is a historical opportunity.
Yes.
It would be a monumental shift for Miami Beach because, and again, this goes back to the point where my opposition has made this such a partisan race, and it shouldn't be partisan. Quality of life issues that affect a municipality are not partisan issues. Congestion, traffic, flooding, infrastructure. This should not be a Dem or a Republican issue. It should, again, be about the residents of Miami Beach and how we're leveraging resources to benefit them best.
Right.
But again, it always ends up being...
And I'm glad that you're a woman, Republican, Catholic, and Cuban, because in Miami Beach, there's a huge problem that a lot of people don't talk about. There is a socialist group that's growing, and it's growing by here, Miami Beach, and they're going down to Miami. They're going down, so it's something that I want you to, if you are gonna win, but when you win, will you be doing something regarding the socialist group that's growing in Miami Beach?
I think we have to be very mindful that people become educated. Voters are not educated.
They're not.
They're apathetic. And they go along, for the most part. Miami Beach does have a very intelligent electorate, and they do their research. Now, for those of the electorate that unfortunately have to work 9 to 5, where they're going to feed their families, they're not really diving deep into the policy issues as to who's going to, but that vote is so important.
It is.
Those
local votes are very
important. Votes are so important, and that is the message that we continue to stress. You need to vote in your runoff. You can't complain about who's up on the dais if you are not going to participate in the electoral process. And we have to have a strong group of representatives sitting on that dais so that everybody is represented. The Republicans in Miami Beach, if they are too afraid to speak up because they feel they're going to be ostracized, and that's the MO, right? You've been seeing it with me. You've been seeing the attacks that have been levied my way, and it's she's MAGA extremist, MAGA mom extremist, and it's one after, and it shouldn't be. It's unfortunately that's the nature of the beast. It's politics. But we have to have somebody, I think, that has the courage, the integrity, the accountability to stand up on that dais and say, you know what, this is not what Miami Beach is about. This municipality needs to focus on the boring stuff.
Right.
Our dirty water.
The potholes.
The broken pipes. The fact that you have sewage spewing out next to a playground in North Beach. These things need to be addressed. And we can't continue to kick the can down the road.
Yes. And a lot of small businesses are struggling here. Even coming down here, I used to have an office around here, and there was a Jewish restaurant downstairs. It's closed. There's a restaurant there closed. As a commissioner, what would be how will you help these small businesses?
I think we need to incentivize, and I agree with you 100%. You look at some of these corridors, Washington Avenue, 41st, you go up to North Beach. There's a lot of blighted corridors that unfortunately have fallen into dilapidation, and you know, we need to revitalize these areas. That was another reason why I ran, because I've got my kids here and I want to go to 41st. There's not an ice cream shop. There's you know, you've got one wonderful restaurant where you can patron Cafe Avanti all the time, and A to Z Toys, shout out to them because they are amazing. It's the best toy shop in Miami Beach. But you know, you want to entice families to move here. Mm-hmm. We need that tax, those taxes that come with the families.
Right.
That's what we need to revitalize Miami Beach.
Right.
So incentivize your small business owners. Excuse me. Expedite permitting. Deal with the red tape that makes it so difficult for them to even come to Miami Beach, set up a shop, and be able to thrive within 6 months. It shouldn't take years to get a business off the ground, up and operating.
Right.
It does them a huge disservice. It does the people of Miami Beach a disservice. And why would you want to open a business in Miami Beach if you can go to Edgewater and do it in half of the time?
Right.
Or Wynwood.
Yes.
You know, we broke up with spring break because we needed to deal with our safety.
I was going to ask you, yes.
We broke up with them, but we've got to draw them back in.
Yes.
So, you know, whether
with law and order.
Yes, absolutely. And I think Mayor Minor has done a great job of ensuring that. And Miami Beach Police does an excellent job. But again, we have, I think, 425, don't quote me on the number of officers currently employed, but 200 event weekends. If they are spread too thin, then we need to make sure that they have the resources, that they're leveraging AI, that if they need more people working the real-time task force, if we need, I think visibility is also important.
Right.
They need to get out of their cars. That's a deterrent in and of itself. Mm-hmm. We have plenty of police officers here on 41st. I think things I've heard from a number of residents where they feel we would love to see more visibility of the police just kind of walking and biking and
the horses,
being on the horses that they need to be, because it does serve as a natural deterrent. But we need to draw people back in, and I think families would love to come here if they can work in Miami Beach and live here.
Yes.
And that's another thing that I would love to be able to, as part of my platform, really leverage is bring in our first responders. If they're working in our city, let's give them an opportunity to live here as well, so that they don't need to commute from Doral or from Kendall,
right?
Which many do.
Yes.
So offer up tax incentives, subsidize certain benefits for them, so that they have the ability to bring their families. Because they bring their families, they enroll them in the schools. More money comes to the schools, and we can, really make Miami Beach what we envision it to be, which 5-10 years, I want to see bustling corridors. I want to see families raising their kids at state-of-the-art facilities where they can play soccer, and they can play baseball, and they don't have to leave to Gulliver or Ransom or Belen, because we've got everything they need here in Miami Beach.
Yeah, good points. As running as a commissioner, it comes a lot of hate, a lot of good stuff, and we all saw that you were attacked in a very, I want to say like in a nice way, but it was very
nothing nice about it.
Nothing.
Nothing nice about it.
And I feel horrible because when that happened, I sent you an email about the podcast, and I was like, oh my gosh, she's gonna think I'm part of this, and I'm not. I was actually trying to bring out, I wanted people to get to know you. And the timing was horrible. Yeah. How did you feel when you started seeing those attacks as your childhood, calling you all these names? How did you feel? As a mom, how did you protect your kids, your husband?
It's, you go into this knowing that you're in a contact sport, and they're gonna dig whatever they're gonna dig up on you. The stuff about my dad, and for those that don't know, my father served decades on death row for murder and was later executed in 2012 and on death row. Now, the Miami Herald's reported on my father. This has been public record for over 40 years. What was taken following everything that transpired were a couple posts, and my opposition has taken 2 posts that were made over a decade ago about how I referred to my dad as my hero and my guiding light.
Yes.
And the context of which they took these posts and have twisted it into a narrative to misrepresent and to essentially assassinate my character, because that's really what this is.
Right,
is a character
right.
assassination.
Yeah.
I've been called a Nazi. My babies have been called Nazi babies. I've had a watch order placed on my home due to threats. I've had what this has done to
because
people.
Miami Beach, it's a huge Jewish community too.
Well, and that's the other thing. It's infuriating only because the people that know me, the people around me, my community, know that I don't have a hateful bone in my body.
Right.
The person that I was saying, my daddy, my hero, my dad was a Marine. He served in Vietnam. My dad was a Marine. My dad was a Sweetwater police officer. He was highway patrol. I had 4.5 years with my dad, and that time with him, that was my dad. That was my hero. That was the man that I was referring to. This post that I made about my daddy, my hero, it was 6 months after my father was executed. I was grieving. I'm an only child. I was grieving and missing a life that I didn't have. Thinking what could have been had it not been for this terrible tragedy.
How old were you when you found out that your dad was?
So I was 4.5 when he went away. I didn't really know where he was. I didn't really understand because
you were 4.
They did such a wonderful job of shielding me. It's essentially what it was, protecting my heart and protecting me and making sure that I would never feel as though I was a victim in any way. And so I kind of went through life just knowing that this terrible tragedy had happened and I lost my dad, but I didn't really understand what was going on and why and
because your mom had you always protected.
No, and then she married my stepfather. My stepfather could not be more wonderful. He's my dad, and I adore him, and they did such an incredible job just kind of making sure that we, no matter the challenges that I faced growing up, that I would always be able to hold my head up high and say, I can do anything in this world in spite of this. Because I can be an example to all those little kids.
Yes.
That, guess what? You know how many kids would visit their parents on death row who are serving life or who are convicted to death? There are a number of children that nobody talks about, that nobody sees, and they're out there, and they need support, and they don't necessarily have it. And so I think it was because I had such a strong family support system already in place that I was able to get through this, terrible situation and overcome it. But back to your point, of course I denounced my father's actions. Of course, the atrocities that were committed, I would never condone those things. But, my priest said to me, you hate the sin, you love the sinner. That's what you're kind of taught in Catholicism. And so, and anybody that would question why a little girl would love her father doesn't really understand the bonds between a parent and a child. And so I think that has been the most difficult aspect of the smear, because it tried to paint me to be something that I am so far from. I live in an Orthodox community. My kids go to the JCC. My best friends, I love my community. I love my neighbors. And so to leverage that, twist it, and make it into something hateful, that has been, for me, the nastiest part of this whole process.
I think from my experience of doing all this stuff for the podcast, and it's the one that it was the most disgusting thing. Because you're a mom. Yeah. They didn't think about your kids.
Oh, yeah.
They went straight to attack you, to break you, and it actually made you stronger because you started going to knocking on more doors.
Absolutely.
We started doing events, and then we saw you in the corners.
Absolutely.
And telling people to,
And I think that's the one thing where I took it to and I said to God, and I prayed, of course, I prayed about it, and I just over and over and over in my head, these are the types of leaders that you need in offers. People that have a backbone. People that can that the most hateful things can be levied at them and know who they are
right.
and stand up to bullies.
Yeah.
And that is the one message that I want people to understand. I will never bow to pressure. They're not going to push me out of this race. They're not going to bully me out of this race. They put, they wanted to smear me. They wanted to assassinate my character. They can take their best shot. But I'm just going to keep on coming. Because the people that know me, know who truly I am,
right.
know that all of those smears couldn't be further from the truth. It's why I got the Teach Florida endorsement after the fact. It's why I'm in this runoff. It's why I've had people call me personally and say, this that was levied against you and used against you is so dirty and so low and so manipulative. People see through it.
Right.
People see what this is all about. They couldn't find anything else to attack.
Right.
They couldn't out-debate me on stage, so they got to use my personal trauma.
Yeah, it's a personal trauma.
It's a personal trauma that I went through, that I grew up in spite of that trauma.
Yeah.
That's been, it's,
Well, your mom did a great job.
My mom's the best. My mom's a G. My mom's a G.
I was going to say a badass because if it was someone else, they would have like, oh hell no, I'm done. I would have grabbed all my stuff, my family. I would have left Miami, disappeared, and you didn't. You showed face the next day.
That's what they wanted me to do.
Correct.
That's what they wanted me to do. When I was talking to other Miami Beach police, and I would have conversations with them, like, what do you want to do? I could put a watch order on my home, make sure my kids are safe, make sure my family is safe, but we keep going.
Yeah.
How
old were you when you found out that your dad was in death row? And
so I continued to visit him. I didn't really know what death row was, probably until my early teens. And I continued to still visit him with my grandparents, because obviously that relationship between him and my mother was no longer once he was arrested and taken away. But my grandparents continued to visit them. And my grandparents played a humongous part of my life. They lived behind my middle school, and they helped raise me. Mm-hmm. And so it took a long time for me. It took a long time for me to forgive him, because I was so mad. Because I loved him so much. He was everything to me.
Yeah,
I was Daddy's little girl.
Right. And you went to the army. You're like, oh my God, my dad's a.
Well, and the big thing for me was, how could this happen? You loved me so much, and I was everything to you. How could you leave me like this? And so, I don't know. People say, oh, well, was it PTSD? Was he sick? Was it something darker than that? And I don't have those answers, because we never spoke about, all we ever spoke about was Daddy did a bad thing, and Daddy has to pay the ultimate price for that. Mm-hmm. And because I would say, well, let's try to fight it, because I couldn't understand. I was so young, I didn't grasp the scenario. And I didn't read, and honestly, at the time, I wasn't reading what was being put into the record.
Your mom tried to do a great job protecting you from the world.
I didn't want to know that
She
stuff.
always you probably did activities after school.
No, and my mother never, my mom is an angel. And my mom raised me, my dad wasn't really around because he was off doing whatever it was that he was doing as a police officer. And so I had a very finite amount of time with him. And when I would see him, it was just him and I. Mm-hmm. And we were conversating the way that you and I are conversating. Mm-hmm. And so this narrative where I somehow am a Nazi sympathizer and I worship somebody who's a Nazi. This narrative is so incorrect, and it's so false, and it's so slanderous, and it's so defamatory. But I know who I am. And the people that are supporting me know who I am. And they know that all of that is just leverage to take out an actual threat against who it is that maybe possibly is the anointed choice. But that's okay, because this isn't about my campaign. This is one part of my campaign. Right. And when it becomes the only focal point, then it distracts from the actual issues, which are, we have real problems here in Miami Beach. Yeah. We do.
We have a huge increasement of homeless.
We have problems that need to be addressed. And this is a tactic in which let's distract the voter from the actual issues. Let's sensationalize something that was a trauma in this person's life as a child, as a 4-year-old, so that we can distract from the fact that, you know what, she might actually be the better candidate. She might actually be more qualified for this job. And the voters made their choice. I'm in the runoff for a reason.
Yeah.
And I'm going to fight tooth and nail for that seat. I will not stop. Till the bitter end, we keep going.
So when did this happen when you were a child? This is what made you to become a lawyer and go to family practice.
I think that is probably very accurate in the sense that I have always had this deep fire in my belly to want to help others. And if I can do it, given everything I've been through in my life, if I can do it, then that little boy and that little girl that's going through the same pain, through the same experience, then they can do it too.
Yeah, they'll see you now as a role model.
And that's it. And that's really what this fight has ultimately been about.
Yeah.
Where God picks his soldiers, and God only gives you as much as you can handle.
Yeah.
And he truly believed that I could handle a lot, right?
Yeah.
And so if that's if there's one thing that people can take away from me, is that no matter the circumstances that you're born into or that you're faced with at an early age, you can always rise above them. You can always overcome them. And you just have to have grit, and you have to persevere, and you have to be tough, and you can't let people bully you.
Yeah.
And that's part of my message of who I am.
I love it. And like I said, I was like, oh my God, that's it. She's the next day, you're going to say, I'm not doing this, but you showed everybody that you're a tough cookie. Because it was very ugly the way that they did it. It was very ugly. They opened up probably a trauma. We don't know, because we don't know how you felt that day. What did your mom say when they were saying all this stuff about you in social media?
Well, you have to, being a parent,
Yeah.
all you want to do is protect your babies.
Yeah.
And I'm still her baby.
And if she's a Hialeah Cuban, she probably wanted to go to people's
No,
houses.
she wants to protect your baby. And, I think she has been an incredible support for me, just emotionally. Aside from the physical support, she just wants to make sure that I'm okay. And like I told her, I go, you raised me to be a fighter, through and through. I go, nobody is going to bully me out of this race, no matter how hard they try. And I think, to your point, would have been the easier route to just say, you know what, hang up your gloves and be done. This is ugly. This is nasty. Protect your family. That was another thing people said, oh, well, you got to protect your family. I go, I am protecting my family because my kids need to know that mommy is never going to let anybody pressure them. And I'm serving as an example to them.
Yeah, you are.
They're looking at me. They're like, how does mommy handle pressure?
Yeah.
How does daddy handle pressure? And those are life lessons that they can take with them wherever they go.
Yeah.
I want them to have that perseverance in them, because life is hard. Life is hard. And when these types of attacks come out, it just makes something that should be relatively black and white into just really messy and really unfortunate. And it leaves a bad taste in voters' mouths, because I can't tell you how many people said to me, this is ugly.
It's trashy.
It's trashy.
It's trashy.
It's ugly. Do you know how much each of those mailers cost? You know how much those consultants pay? Each of those mailers have got to be, $8,000 to $9,000. You're spending an exorbitant amount of money to bring down an opponent.
Right.
It just, the whole concept of it.
I tell that to everybody. Don't attack your point. Tell people what you're bringing to the table.
Yeah, absolutely. and that's the other thing. When we went into this wide-eyed and bushy-tailed, we wanted to focus on the issues. We wanted to focus on what we want to do to make Miami Beach a safer, smarter, stronger place to live for our families, for small businesses, for the residents that are presently here, that don't want to leave, that don't want to be pushed out.
We want to come back to the beach. We're not going to Fort Lauderdale. I'm going to Biscayne.
Exactly.
Playa Los Perros.
Exactly.
Because I'm so scared, because first, the traffic here is insane. Parking is very pricey, and the beach, especially in the 7th Collins Avenue, that's where I used to like. It's a little bit ratchet there.
It's Parking is a tremendous issue.
Well, I found a good park in a garage. I'm not gonna tell anybody where it is.
Keep it secret. Keep it secret. It'll be overrun in no time. But it's true. Look, at the end, we have the convention center coming online. Once those hotels come on board, and we have that revitalization, God willing, that the convention center will bring to Lincoln Road, plus the money that the city of Miami Beach is already investing in Lincoln Road. That I hope will bring the type of traffic that we used to experience, because we loved walking Lincoln Road, but you can't even have live music on Lincoln Road right now.
No.
So there's a lot of ordinances and statutes on the books that need to make sense. I think we over-regulate ourselves, and I think we regulate ourselves in things that don't necessarily need regulation. Zoning is an issue. We have, ad hoc spot zoning is a problem. We need to make sure that, we have a master plan. There's a number of issues that day one I want to begin addressing. And I think that's another big difference between my opponent and I, is I've been to Tallahassee. I've helped write legislation, helped pass legislation. I have working relationships with people in the county, with individuals in Tallahassee. Being able to leverage somebody on your dais in that way is helpful for the city. And so it shouldn't be partisan, but it should be about somebody that can get it done day one, that has institutional knowledge, that understands, just between my background as an attorney and working in finance, I think I bring a lot of attributes to the table. If we can get past this major smear, and I think most voters have gotten past it, God willing, and we'll just continue to canvass and phone bank and knock on doors, and I do it every day.
I did put a poll saying that I was gonna interview, and I did get a lot of questions. This week, they did a reel on Instagram about Fontainebleau becoming a water park. What do you think about that?
The water park, the water park that is being proposed in its present form.
So it is. It's not a fake reel.
No, that's not misrepresent. That's actual. Yes, that is. Those are renderings of what's being presently proposed.
Okay.
I don't foresee. It's private property, yes, but I don't foresee. The historical preservation, they had the committee, and there was a lot of residents that came out and spoke in opposition of what's actually being presented. I don't know in what's being presented right now in that form that would ever pass. I think if you've seen it,
it doesn't make sense.
It's not a water park that you or I were necessarily, and I don't even think it would be actually open to, you would have to be staying at the Fontainebleau.
So imagine you go to the Club Live, and then you get drunk, and then you go to the water park. That's going to be a disaster. That's what I've been thinking. Imagine you're in the pool, and you see little Wayne stuck in the slides.
I wouldn't, I wouldn't opine on it right now, given that, I'm not up on the dais yet. But just from a legal perspective, I don't know. I don't see how that would actually pass. Or those renderings in its present form would pass the way that it's right
Imagine
now.
You go to the club, and then you go to a water park, and you're there jamming
No,
with Rick Ross.
I know. And there's valid concerns around what that would do for traffic, and what it would do for quality of life for those that live in the vicinity of that area. I live in Mid Beach, so it would certainly affect me.
Yeah.
And so I get, again, I can't see it in its present form.
We have to get you in there to get.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that we can work on if the voters just take a leap of faith in me, because I am the outsider candidate, right? I mean,
it's your first time running for anything.
It is the first time public office. It is my
gosh.
first time running. But people look at me as the outsider candidate. Plus, I've got an R next to my name. So, for good and for bad, I think I want people to know, at my core, I am an advocate. So the same way that I advocate for those children day in and day out as a guardian ad litem is the same way I want to advocate for the residents of Miami Beach.
Yeah.
I'm tempered. I make educated decisions not based on special interests or who's in my ear. I'm no one's proxy. I am my own woman.
And she's not a part of the establishment.
And I am not a part of the establishment, clearly.
Yes.
I am not a part of the establishment. I am not politics as usual. I am the alternative choice to that. And I think that that's why it's so important. But look, Republicans, for the most part, they didn't get up and vote. they didn't come out in the general the way that we had hoped them to come out. And so that's why it's so important for those that watch and for those that have a minute to get to know who I am, understand the importance of this runoff vote.
Yes.
That they come out and support. Same with City of Miami and what's happening now in City of Miami. We can all say what we want and opine on what should be. But if you don't go out and vote and participate in your democratic process, then you can't come back later and say, well, this is
that a lot of people are confused. They think Trump is the one who's gonna fix the potholes. Trump is the one who fixes the and it's not like that. That's why we joined Miami Dade Today. That's why we started doing this podcast, to educate people that when to fix a pothole, you have to call her.
Yes, you call me for the pothole. You don't call
There's
Trump.
an issue going on in your neighborhood, she's the one to call.
Absolutely.
HOA problems, she's the one to call.
Yeah.
Another question that I got a lot is that why does it take so long to open up small business in Miami Beach? Why is the permits such a nightmare? Why is the grease trap such a nightmare? What can you do as once you're there? Sure. What can you do for these small businesses to open up a little bit faster?
No, I think we should have expedited lanes, right? So these virtual queues where if everybody is in the same line to get a permit, it shouldn't. I'm going to get in line with you. I want to take out some Austrian pines on my property and you want to open up a pop-up on Lincoln. Why are we in the same queue? Right. So businesses, residential, we need to have expedited tracks for both, and we need to incentivize certain types of businesses that we want to see. If we know we need X type of business to draw in more people to patron in certain areas, we give them fast track expedited services.
Yeah.
We have to cut the red tape. That's a problem that historically has been. I know that City of Miami Beach has tried to make it where it's less so onerous of a process, but we need to also make sure that if you have somebody that's coming in and you have an inspector, that you have that same inspector that's with you from the beginning of the process till the very end. Because if you've got 3 different inspectors over the course of your process, then what one person might say needs to be addressed is something different from
the other one.
And so it causes delays that are unnecessary.
There's people that have been waiting for 2 years.
And think about how much it costs to get the architect, the designs, everything that goes into actually opening a business.
Yeah. Because you still have to pay rent.
Exactly.
The permits are taking forever, but you still have to pay rent. And once you get the approval to open up, you can't. There's no money to buy supplies. There's nothing.
Absolutely. And there needs to be a way to incentivize landlords to bring in certain types of tenants, to say, well, we're going to give you some sort of grace, or we're going to pass down the savings that we're receiving from Tallahassee, where now we don't have small businesses don't have to pay certain types of rents or certain types of taxes on their small businesses. Let's make sure we can pass that through to our tenants. Pop-ups, galleries, there's got to be a way to have some sort of incentive programming for residents of Miami Beach that maybe want to also open up a business. I think we just have to get out of our own way.
Yeah.
And we need to have local offices. We need to have DERM. We have to have inspectors that, again, are aligned with one particular project at a time.
Well, the tax collector's in an open office here now.
He did an incredible job. They just opened it.
Oh, they already opened it? Oh, that was quick.
It's seamless. They just had the ribbon cutting, and I have a friend that actually went to renew their driver's license. But that's the stuff that we need to do.
Yeah.
We can't continue to kick the can down the road on every issue, because I've been visiting with seniors up in North Beach. They've got elevator issues 6 to 8 months. That's a tremendous hazard, and that is not quality of life for these seniors. They shouldn't be waiting an hour and a half for bus service that are not ADA regulated. There's a lot of quality of life issues that have to be addressed that have nothing to do with partisan politics.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing at all. Shouldn't matter if you've got a D next to your name or an R. Are you serving the people of Miami Beach?
Correct.
That's what it's all about.
It's all about, yeah. Thank you so much for taking your time. I know you're busy and running around. Thank you so much for talking to us. I wanted you to see if you wanted to take a minute and talk to our followers to see motivate them to
Oh, no,
vote
absolutely.
for you.
I just want to say, Mercy, thank you so much for taking this time to be with me, to get to know me
Yes,
personally.
yes.
Now you know I'm a Hialeah girl.
Yes.
Soy cubana. And
Cuba libre.
Exactly. You know, and I'm here. I'm going to be the fighter for Miami Beach. That is what my job is on a daily basis, and that's what I want to do for the residents of Miami Beach. You have an alternative choice. And I want you to know that my door is always open, lines of communication always available to anybody that wants somebody that's going to listen to them and that's going to advocate and serve them on that dais. My job as a commissioner is to be a fiduciary to the Miami Beach residents, not to push my weight around, but to make sure that the desires and the needs of our residents are being addressed in an effective way, in a nonpartisan way, in a way that cannot be bullied or bought. That is one thing that's very important. I am neither of those things. I am neither bullied nor am I bought. And I really hope you vote with your conscience. It's the most important thing.
Yes.
Vote with your conscience. 138, that's my ballot number. Vote for Pope, Monique Pardo Pope. And again, if you have any questions or want to learn anything more about me, my door is always open. I am always here. And I look forward to serving you come December 9th.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate you. God
No,
bless
you're
you.
welcome.
At Mercy's Corner, the voice of the community. Here we are. Fresh information, daily updates, policies, events, all with joy. Here we talk politics without fear, face to face with politicians. The game is real. Commissioners, mayors, candidates in line, party supporters, all on the road. Hot events, small businesses that grow. Health, beauty, wellness for all who seek. Mercy's Corner, the voice of the people. Problems, solutions without detours.